G'day legends, welcome to Flat Stick. Today we've got a special episode where we're interviewing Shannon from Camp Winnie with two of our favourite topics, motorbikes and Terminator 2.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah, here it is dudes.
Welcome to Flat Stick. Guys, welcome to the Flat Stick podcast. We have a special guest today. We've got Shannon from the Camp Winnie YouTube channel. How are you, Shannon?
Mate, pumped. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on your show.
Good. Now, it's a weird story how we met, Shannon. So weird. There's a Terminator 2.
This sounds very Nick Capper, by the way, because we are both obsessed with Terminator 2 and Terminator 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and I reckon most of our fans are.
Good men.
Yeah. I don't know what man in our age group isn't, you know? My friend tagged me. He said, look at this guy. And it said it was a Terminator 2 collection. And it had the motorbike. It had the cop car. I think it had a Terminator 2 figurine, like a big statue. Yep. And I was like, wow. And then I looked and I was like, holy shit, this guy's in Sydney. And so what we do is we have our YouTube show where we go around garages of like, I've got to get in this garage. I'm going to break into this guy's garage if he doesn't let me in. So I sent you a personal message. I hope it didn't come across as creepy or whatever. And then you're like, man, I would love to show you around. However, I am out in the Simpson desert. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. You must be on holiday. You're like, no. I live in a caravan and currently I'm riding on a KLR650 across the Simpson desert with two Yamaha 10Rays. And I was like, oh my God, are we soulmates, Shannon?
Listeners, what he said is absolutely true, word for word. That's exactly how I met you. I actually was, for real, in the Simpson desert in a flooding tent because it was piss and rain at the time. And freezing cold, and that's when your message come through. And, you know, I'd had a few bourbon and cokes and my mates were in their tents and it was miserable. But at that very second, the Titan submersible was missing.
Yes.
They hadn't found them yet. And I thought to myself, wow, there's 5 people out there in the middle of the ocean that would kill to be in my position in a leaky tent in the Simpsons. So I wasn't whinging. But your message come through, obviously an avid Terminator fan. And, mate, then I started listening to your podcast. And I just thought it was fantastic. What was the title of it? Bikes, Beers, and Bullshit.
Yes.
Now, it's dry July, guys, but let's talk about all three.
Also, I was going to say, you had me a bourbon and coke.
Yeah. Wow. You might be Brett's soulmate here. You're drinking a bourbon and coke until he's new. I never thought I'd meet another cretin that would put this poison into their veins. But yes.
Mate, I love the two of you. I was in Newcastle recently. So I was in New South Wales recently, and the only way I know I'm in each state is by having their flagship beer. New South Wales, Tooheys, Queensland, 4X, WA, the Bush Took. That's what you got to do.
Oh, West End in Adelaide. You can't remember West End, you know?
Yeah. EMU.
Oh, mate. So, look, first of all, before we go into your fucking life, which will probably go over a 3-episode, let's talk about the Terminator 2 collection. So, what do you have in your garage? Okay.
Okay, the first thing I built was the Schwarzenegger statue. I beg your pardon, I cut it right back. The first thing I bought was the Harley Davidson Fat Boy.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
Nice.
I've spoken to Peter Kent, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger's stuntman on 12 different films. I've spoken to him a number of times because I'm not a Harley Davidson lover per se. I just love anything on 2 wheels, anything.
Yeah, yep.
But I love this. I love action movies, but with T2 being my favourite. So I hunted around for the Evolution model, Fat Boy.
Yeah.
I'd had one years ago, but we sold it. That's a long story, but found this one in 2014. Hadn't been touched. It was all original, like it rolled off the Pennsylvania Harley Davidson showroom floor. Went up to Queensland, bought it, rode it home, and that's the first thing I bought that was T2 related. I've even got the foot pegs on the front of the frame where Edward Furlong stuck his feet during some of the scenes. They've even copied that. So it's replicated to the movie bike.
And what was the ride like from Queensland back home? Was it pretty comfortable, or she was a bit of a pig?
Mate, it pissed down rain for the whole 2 days. I remember the time vividly. It took 2 days. And when I got this beautiful chrome Harley Davidson, and by the time I got it home to Sydney, the bike was grey. That's how much roadworks and rain I'd gotten through. But
roadworks and rain, you should be the
Harleys
third member of Flatstick.
Yeah.
We're always riding in the rain.
Always in the rain.
Roadworks.
Yeah, man.
Always freaking raining.
Now, this is such a cool thing. Comedian Mike Goldstein pointed this out to me. I've seen, I reckon, Terminator 2 1,000 times, at least. More than, you've probably seen it a lot more. But he pointed out to me that the stunt, you can see the stuntman in the jump.
Yes.
When he jumps the Harley, you can see that arguably Arnie has put on a lot of kilos in that, like, not a lot, but he's a lot bigger man when he jumps that jump. What did you ask him about that jump, and can you tell us about
everything?
It? Yeah, really.
So, long story short, James Cameron had a sequel in his head, and he approached Peter Kent and said, what the signature stunt in this movie is going to be jumping a motorcycle off the Viaduct water canal in Los Angeles. Can we do it? And Peter Kent, being an avid motorcycle stunt man, said, yeah, we can do it. Like, he's thinking, a dirt bike, trail bike, what sort of bike we talking? And James Cameron, with an expressionless look on his face, said, a Harley.
Oh, my God.
And Peter Kent went, no, seriously, what sort of bike? And James Cameron went, a Harley. So they agreed they couldn't jump a 318 kilo fat boy off the canal safely. So they lowered it down on cables off a crane. But they still lowered him down at quite a bit of speed because they wanted the bike to still bottom out and look like it had some inertia as it hit the ground. And he actually hurt his back, even though it was lowered on a crane. And Industrial Light and Magic, what they call it, erase the cables, so that's why you can't see cables. Now, in the original Terminator, because it was those days, it was 1990, they filmed it, they had rubber prosthetics around Peter Kent's face to make him look a bit like Arnie. Mm-hmm. Arnie's a hard face to copy, man. He's such almost an ethereal head, you know.
Yeah.
So, look, it was pretty good for the day, but I noticed when they re-released Terminator 2 3D, they cleaned up all the movies. A few faults they'd cleaned up, I noticed, and they actually put Schwarzenegger's face superimposed on Peter Kent's face.
Oh, that's awesome. So we might have to re-watch it again.
Man, unfortunately, we'll
watch an old copy.
For research
purposes. Watch an old copy and then the new copy, and they've put Arnie's face on there, which pissed Peter Kent off. He said, stuntmen don't get acknowledged anyway. So anyway, that's not the story. But so James Cameron sent Peter Kent down to the Harley Davidson shop, picked up 5 Harleys, 5 copies.
Whoa.
They slightly hotter one up, bit of carby work, bit of cam work, exhaust, nothing special for the canal scenes where they're trying to outrace the truck.
Far out, man.
And he flipped it, crashed it, hurt his back again. I sent him pictures of my Harley, and he said, brings back memories. It's a beautiful bike. And that's how I ended up with the Harley anyway. I was just...
Is that belt-driven?
Obsession thing.
Is that
they
belt-driven?
Belt-driven, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember that generation of Harleys that they weren't too reliable, but that fat boy from that generation is absolutely beautiful. You know?
Stunning.
Have you thought, I suppose you're not going to change it to chain because you don't want to fuck with the authenticity, do you?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, that's that is like the seat looks like it hasn't been sat on. You know, it's a
wow, man.
It's
and just for the
a
listeners
great
at
example
home,
of a.
Sorry, and just for the listeners at home, some people might be going, "Oh, why couldn't they jump the Harley? Why could they jump a dirt bike?" Suspension. Suspension is the big issue there, you know, and also the weight of the bike.
Oh,
it's going to absolutely destroy you.
Seth Enslow jumped a Harley.
Would have killed himself, yeah.
Yeah. Seth Enslow jumped a Harley, but it did not look like a Harley. No. It just had the engine in it. That
and
was
also
it.
He lost the top of his scalp.
Yeah.
Actually, funny you guys mentioned motorcycle stunts. Another really cool stunt in T2 was where the T1000 rides the cop bike up the staircase.
Oh, yes.
At the Cyberdyne building.
Yep.
Wasn't Robert Patrick, obviously, and it wasn't a Kawasaki 1000 police bike. What they'd done is they got a Honda XL500. XL500? Might have been an XL250. And put panniers all over it. And then with whoop, 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 road bike sound effects as he's going up the staircase. That motorbike's in a museum somewhere in America. The XL500. That's how they did that. Yeah.
Far out. Yeah,
that is actually cool. I was trying to think, how would they even get it in there? You know?
Yeah, I'd forgot. Man, I'm going to have to watch it again.
We have to watch it again.
It's been a year or two, I reckon, since I watched it. I usually watch it yearly. I usually watch Predator, Aliens, Terminator 2.
Terminator 2 at Christmas every year. I don't know why. That's my Christmas film.
They never date, guys. Hey, they never show their age. These movies.
I think it was the perfect time. I mean, I could talk about this all day, Shannon. We'll maybe save another movie podcast. But, the 90s were the perfect... It was like Fast and the Furious met like high art orchestral soundtrack films. You know what I mean? There was still a bit of high art in there, but there was also a bit of action, which made it the best time for movies. Now, you just have either art or action. You either have John Wick or fucking, I don't know, Gus Van Sant or something like that, you know what I mean? But they can manage to combine the both, you know?
Do you know, Nick, they Hollywood's lost their magic, hey? I mean, you even cut it right back to the 80s. I just listened to your last podcast. You mentioned the Mad Max movies.
Yeah.
Look, Mad Max, the Dundee movies, Lethal Weapons. I love First Blood and Rambo Part 2. Die Hard, the Terminator movies. You're talking about masterpiece magic movie making. They just don't seem to be able to get there anymore. I don't know. I think they've lost their puff.
Yeah, and I think also, I don't know whether, I mean, like the Terminator 2 is a big Hollywood production, but if you look at like Rambo 1, people think Rambo's this crazy story about a guy just messing people up in the forest. You look at Rambo 1, it's actually a guy who's come back from war, suffering post-traumatic stress syndrome. Yeah. There's a lot more.
There's a lot more going on, man. Yeah.
And people just like, it's all stunts and stuff. I'm like, no. Watch Rambo 1. It's actually an incredible film.
Man, I think I don't know.
It's very good.
This is a theory of mine that they used cocaine what it's meant for. You know what I mean? Like now we use cocaine like recreationally. We're like, I need to talk. I need to get away from my phone. I'll do some coke. But they were like, all right, I got this idea for a fucking movie. There's 2 robots go back in time, you know? And it's always like 10 layers of stuff. And then we're going to fly a helicopter under a bridge. And then there's going to be a jump with a Harley Davidson. That's just pure cocaine talking, you know?
I ran into a guy in Coober Pedy because we're, as you said at the start of your podcast, we're touring Australia in a motorhome at the moment. We'd done Mad Max 2. We'd done Coober Pedy for Mad Max 3. I bumped into a guy that was an extra on Mad Max 3 beyond Thunderdome out at Coober Pedy back in 85. He said there was cocaine rampant on the set. Angry Anderson was even getting pissed off. He goes, look, boys, and even George Miller and Angry Anderson said, do what you've got to do, guys, but if the cops turn up here and they get this set shut down, you're on your own. I don't want to know yous. It was freaking rampant.
I was going to say, I joined the film industry in the early 2000s, and it was rampant then.
Oh, really?
So I can only imagine what it was like in the 80s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
So just quickly, Shannon, what other T2 things did you go? Because you said you got the Harley, then you built Arnie statue.
I built the Arnie statue out of boredom during the first COVID lockdown. It took me 6 months. So that was him. Like, I went obsessive on that because you were stuck at home. The government said, do not leave your house and don't speak to your neighbours, right? So what do? You build Arnie statues, right?
That's the only logical thing you can do.
Yeah, that's right. I got all his dimensions of what he was in 1990, his arms, his legs, his height, all that. All the jacket had to be authentic, all the costume pieces, like even down to the belt buckle, the jacket buckle, the bullet holes, the flesh wounds. I went all out on that one. Hey, it's even got Arnie's glass eye. I had a glass eye. It's a retina scan done, a copy of his eye. They're like blue-green. They're a funny colour. And real hair, and it just got out of control, and all of a sudden I had an Arnie statue.
Is that why you're currently living in a motorhome? Because you spent all your money?
Mate, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the wife said, Arnie statues or me? Which one is it? So I'm in my motorhome, guys, living on the road.
You made a wise
and
decision.
then the car. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Which car?
So the car, the black and white police car.
Yep.
So I'd always restored classic cars all my life. You know, XB Coupes, XY Falcons, and
Oh, my
400s
God.
and
He's talking
Broncos
40s.
and
Wow.
vintage caravans and motorhomes, vintage motorcycles. I've always got my hand in something. So, but I thought I'm sick of the GT Falcon crowd and all that. They've been done to death.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm a movie fanatic. Why don't I do a movie car? Haven't done one of those before. Now, you can't get near an XB Interceptor these days. You're in them for 150 grand. And you can forget Ecto 1. And I thought, what hasn't been done? Oh, I know. The Chevy Caprice LAPD police car that the T1000 steals at the movie's opening. So, again,
It's a beautiful
I lost
car
my
as well.
mind and just... It is. Yeah, mate, I've never had such a car that drew so much attention when I've got it out.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to copy everything right down to the license plates that car had. So I did, and I took 4 years building it to where it is
Oh,
today.
wow. Oh, my God, man.
Yeah.
There's a fan page which I'm sure you probably made anyway, but it's got every single, because I'm a big car nerd and I love just looking at different car shapes and models and stuff like that. But it's got every single car that appeared in Terminator 2, and there must be 200. But even if one's only just been caught in a frame for in the deep background, it tells you the model of the car. I was on a deep dive about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that in the background.
Man.
Firebird, nice. You know?
Yeah.
I
I think that's Internet Movie Car Database, possibly.
I think so. Yeah. I'll put the link up on our Flatstick page for all the dorks who want to check it out. And the question is, did you get the little XR100?
Oh, yeah.
With 15 gears, it sounds like a two-stroke. No, I can't find that. Interesting about that, and I know, yeah. Edward Furlong was gifted that motorbike from James Cameron after the film Wrapped. He gave it to him, and Edward Furlong had it for years and years and years, and only just sold it only several years back, which is a shame. Must be in someone's private collection. Look, it's only an XR100, but you can pick them up cheap.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I saw a bunch the other day on Facebook Marketplace. I was like, oh, God.
Even that's the one you've got to get, the OG one from the set. You know what I mean?
Oh, man, yeah.
Because no one would give a shit if you did a replica of it. It's like,
I'm surprised Edward Furlong didn't give it away, because he got hooked on heroin and shit for ages.
Everything.
I had a friend who went to Hollywood, and he was trying to make it in Hollywood, and he got a job as a pizza deliverer. And all he did was deliver pizzas to Edward Furlong.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a cool story.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
He said he just watched him just get fat as shit. He's like, oh.
I would have been like, not that you want to kick
shame.
someone when they're down, but you'd have been like, man, I'll give you $2,000 for that bike.
Yeah, far out, yeah.
Mate, it's absolute shame. Look, I've actually emailed Robert Patrick with all the details on my car. He owns a Harley Davidson dealership now in LA somewhere, I think.
What?
As well as
Robert?
acting. Yeah, he bought a Harley Davidson deal. Long story short, he used to lay in his apartment bed, staring at the ceiling late at night, hearing the drones of Harley Davidsons out in the street. He was poor. He was a poor actor, just trying to make it in Hollywood, and he said to himself, if I make it big, I'm going to buy myself a Harley Davidson. Anyway, he bought a dealership several years ago. And I thought...
So he's done all right.
I would not... He's done well. I emailed him, and I thought, if I get an email back and he's interested in this car, I would sell Robert Patrick that car for his Harley Davidson dealership so I could just sit in the foyer. But I never heard back from him, unfortunately.
Oh, man. Because
Man, you sound exactly like me. I'm like, I have 2 rums, and then I just start emailing people who I think are cool.
Same. Brett, that's me.
And they sometimes get back to you. It's fucking wild.
Well, look at Nick. I was in the middle of the Simpson. It's like I was hoping he believed me that I was in the Simpson desert.
Yeah.
Love it.
Oh, man. Now, okay, so, yeah, you've got all that stuff. We're Terminator 2 collection. We'll probably get you on for another episode.
You've got to, when you get back to base, we will go out of our way to fly to you to come hang out for a day.
But while it is
Just
fresh,
do that.
in your memory, tell us, because you are, Camp Winnie, YouTube, check it out. It's awesome. But you are releasing 2 videos of you and 2 mates crossing the Simpson Desert.
Awesome.
Tell us about it. How long's this been planned for? Where did you start? Where did you finish?
So we're on a camping trip last year, and we're just around the campfire, and just as you boys and I are doing over the beers, said, "Hey mate, why don't we do something really cool and cross the Simpson Desert?" And that's where it was seeded that night. So it was a year in the making. How we do it, what bikes will we take, what equipment will we need, who's first aid trained, are we confident in riding through that sort of terrain? We're pretty decent riders. I'm no stunt rider, don't get me wrong. But it was, a year in the making, in the planning. Unfortunately, all the floods from Queensland that have been flooded up there since January have made its way down into the freaking Simpson Desert, and it's flooded Eyre Creek. Mm-hmm. So I won't spoil it because, I don't know, this podcast might come out before the movies do, but it was the hardest riding I have ever done in my entire life.
Really?
Most challenging. Look, it was brutal. It's hot. It's you're camping in tents. Now, for a weekend, that's fine, but when at 10 days and you're rolling out and setting up a wet tent with a damp sleeping bag, and you know it's hitting 3 degrees tonight, she ain't fun.
Wow.
No, I was going to
say, do it because the riding's good.
Deserts are the worst conditions because they're bloody boiling hot during the day. They're freezing cold at night. And if you can't get your gear dry, you're just pretty much sleeping in an air conditioning duct. You know what I mean? It's so fucking cold.
It's a punish. It's a punish. Actually, you guys are from Melbourne, right?
Yeah. Well, different towns. We live in Melbourne now.
Yeah.
We met this random guy filling up fuel at this middle of nowhere roadhouse servo. And he's from Melbourne. He's ridden up on this DR650. He's a concreter by trade. He had his steel cap concreter work shoes on, a pair of tracky dacks, a hoodie. He had no proper riding gear.
Sounds like a DR650 rider to me.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He had one of those Acerbis tanks, the real big, ginormous tanks that dwarf the bike. So he had more gasoline than the Exxon Valdez on this freaking bike. And I said, "Oh mate, you're on your own?" Yeah, I don't know truly what his story was, but great guy up from Melbourne. He's going on a pilgrimage around, left his wife and kids and his concreting business with his sons down Melbourne on this quest to maybe find himself. I'll leave it there. I think that's what he was doing. He was on his own. And I said, "Mate, do you want to tag along with us? We're halfway through our ride. We're on the way to Birdsville. We'll see if we can make it across." Yeah. And he tagged along with us for quite a few nights. And then we parted ways in Birdsville. He's already in Cape York on this DR650 already. And this is only a few weeks back. He rode like a demon. He was a really skillful rider.
And he's just had track pants and where did he always had sleeping gear and all that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, he had that. He had sleeping gear.
Yeah.
Had minimum tools. Didn't have any food. He was just on the booze on the pub meals. He was such a character. His name was Phil. You see him in part 1 of the videos, and then we part ways for part 2. But he's still out there, man, and he's just wandering the wastelands. Pardon the Mad Max reference.
Okay, yeah. So without giving away too much from the series, what is the riding like there? Is it all sandy? Is there hills? What is it? Is it heaps of water crossings? What made it so good?
Nick, it was everything. No bullshit. Every kilometre it's changing. It changes colours, it changes terrain. It'll be loose sand, then it's mud, then it's compacted dirt. Then you're riding through a creek bed and it's full of shale and stones and rocks, and you're barely vertical. And I told the boys, guys, I've ridden since I was 13. I've actually never ridden through sand before. And they're like, "What?" I went, "Yeah, I've never ridden through sand before." "Oh, you're going to be all right with this?"
Simpson Desert.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
There's a fair bit of sand there.
Yeah.
I will tell them now, on a 200-kilo adventure bike packed up with camping gear, never ridden sand before, I had concerns that I'd ever make it.
Yeah, I was going to say you
I
probably
really
have
did.
a lot of crashes as well because I'll put my hand up. I suck in the sand as well, and it freaks me the fuck out, and that's where I have nearly all my crashes.
Mate, it's like you're riding through a bowl of jelly or wet concrete. It's hard.
Yeah, and you can't tell the bike where to go. You just got to hold the accelerator and hopefully you're going in the right way.
That's exactly the analogy. Hold the throttle and hope. It's dangerous.
Yeah, we interviewed one of the guys who just won the Fink Desert race, David Walsh, who's obviously one of the best in the game at that. And his tip is for us, and he said, just hold it down as hard as you can and just get the weight off the front wheel. And I mean, obviously he's very skilled, but he's like, and just hope for the best. But,
Yeah.
But I was like, man,
Wow.
he goes, you got to be over 100 Ks in sand, otherwise you're fucked. And I was like, man, I'm riding around in 30, 40 Ks and I'm shitting, you know?
Yeah,
and like those Finks Desert Racer guys, they lose a guy once a year. Well, they used to. I don't know how safe it is now. They're doing 160 Ks an hour through the sand.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. Scary stuff.
Well, that's wild as hell, mate. Yeah. Well, we can't wait to see the rest of the series. You sent us a couple of YouTube previews, and it looked sensational. It looked amazing.
Thanks, mate.
10 days, though. That's a long time to camp. How was it feeling sleeping back in your bed after that? Were you, like, relieved, but also kind of... Because sometimes when I ride for 4 or 5 days, I'm like, I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started now. I can't wait to... I want to go forever, you know?
Well, it was the whole thing. It was you don't shower, or occasionally you shower because you've got preserved water. You're living out of dehydrated meal packets. You're sleeping on the ground. You're wet and damp all the time, and you're sleeping in the same gear you've been sweating your ass off in that day. You only got 3 pairs of socks to your name because you can't carry anything.
Yeah, yeah.
You go to bed smelling a campfire. Look, I can see why you'd go a bit feral there if it was any more than a couple of weeks. The dudes were really, really good. They're really experienced riders. They were on the Yamaha T7s. One Yamaha T700, one Yamaha T660. Pretty skillful riders. Done sand riding before. I hadn't. But yeah, it's rough, mate. It is rough while camping. And look, not to put a finer point on it, it's man's country out there. It really is.
Yeah.
In every sense of the word.
Yeah.
And what was that sense of relief like when you got through it? Because sometimes Nick puts me into some hairy situations because he's a better rider. And at the start of it or halfway through it, I'm like, I can't fucking do this. And then when you get back and you've done it, it's like the best feeling in the world, you know? What was that like coming back home and conquering it?
I was on a high. There's a big ass sand dune in the Simpson called Big Red. And the Simpson Desert's the largest sand dune desert in the world. Wow. And so we got to this Big Red, and I thought, there's no fucking way I'm going to ride this KLR6. Look, I'm not mocking a KLR650. They're a pretty decent all-round general purpose bike.
They're
right?
a tractor,
They
though.
had D606 tyres on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So I looked at this thing. I thought, there's no way I'm taking this up there. Not now. Not. I don't want to break my leg because we're far from help. I'm still got another 9 months on the road with my family in this motorhome, and I'm no good to my family with a busted leg or a busted shoulder. No, forget it. But then I thought, fuck it. What are we here for? What did we come all the way out here for?
Yeah, yeah.
So I just dropped the clutch and yeah, interesting.
Broke my arm and leg.
Yeah, interesting. But the ride home, we left the Flinders Ranges and it just pissed down rain the whole day riding home back to Broken Hill where my family were parked up for 10 days while I was doing this adventure. Yeah. Ended up with hypothermia, hey.
Oh,
I'd never had hypothermia before. About an hour out of Broken Hill, I was nearly home. It's 4 PM. The dudes are behind me. I thought, I'm not feeling right. I couldn't feel my hands, couldn't feel my arms. I was starting to feel sick. And I pulled up, got off the bike in the caravan park next to our motorhome. I thought, I don't feel well. So I threw down 2 beers and went and had a hot shower, the hottest my skin had taken. Nearly fainted. I'd lost all the feeling in my body and in my arms. Had to sit down in the shower on that the bench thing in a shower of recess, and I thought, man, I'm going to pass out. I read later, if you're hypothermic, avoid alcohol, don't have hot showers. So I fucked that up, didn't I?
You thought you'd test your body one more time to see what the extreme limit was.
That's right, mate. You know.
Man, that is exactly what we would do. That is exactly what I would do.
I actually nearly got hypothermic one night, and when we were riding, and I was picking up Nick's bike, and the sun went down, and it was like fucking -2 degrees, and I rode for an hour, and I was frozen, and I went into the shower, had a hot shower with a bottle of Jameson, and just, where those little seats that they wash old men in, and just sat in there for an hour.
Oh, yeah.
No better. I mean, I know you're not meant to, but there was no better feeling at the time.
Oh, mate.
Mate, I had that thing on as hot as my skin to take it. Now, when I started losing, I couldn't feel the cake in my hands. I lost all the feeling in my hands. I thought, shit, I'm going to pass out here. Imagine passing out on the floor of a caravan park shower. Mate.
Oh, man.
I've been there a few times, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Now, Shannon, thank you so much. We don't have much time. We only got a couple of minutes left on the bloody Zoom thing. Mate, this has been incredible.
Thank you so much.
Please, when in the next 9 months, when you have some more adventures, keep us tuned, Matt. We'd love to check in on and see how you're going. If you've got any motorbike adventures, and we've got to catch up when you get back to Sydney, or if you come to Melbourne, you got a place here. You got a place to park your van, no problem.
Where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they see all this cool stuff you're up to?
Okay, so for the last few years, we've run a YouTube channel called Camp Winnie, Travelling Australia in a Motorhome. We publish at midday every Friday about where we've been. So the Simpson Desert was just one part of it. We're going right around Australia. We're taking this old motorhome right up to Cape York, which I don't think many motorhomes get up there. So we'll see. Let's just see.
Nice one, mate. Oh, that is so cool. We'll check in with you, and make sure you let us know what you're up to.
Thanks, guys. And hey, I love your work. You got me addicted to these bloody podcasts of yours, eh?
Hey, that makes someone.
Mate, don't do a podcast. You'll fucking from what your life sounds like, you'll destroy us.
Yeah. We don't need any more competition, mate.
Yeah. You just be a reporter on ours. All right, mate. No. We can.
I love talking this shit. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, mate.
Thanks again. Pleasure.